2020 was a year in video games, so like any year, there's gonna be microtransactions in some games that really piss some players off. So today we're gonna talk about 10 or so of the biggest ones. Starting off at number 10, let's talk Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Ubisoft snuck in experience boosters a month after launch. This really kind of started and made a much bigger splash with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because these games can be a bit grindy. Some players think they are grindy, some players not so much, but don't worry because Ubisoft will sell you a 50% XP boost for $10. So if you think about it, if you want to see the game quicker, the game's really $70 instead of $60 if you just don't want to feel bottlenecked by playing or something like that. There was a raging debate when it happened with Assassin's Creed Odyssey because it launched with it and the game was incredibly long. Some people argued that people who don't have much time to play the game can pay a little extra to experience it all, but then other people would argue, hey, you shouldn't have to pay extra to experience it, that's weird. But the interesting thing is that with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the game didn't launch with a booster. It wasn't until a month later that Ubisoft then felt comfortable, I guess, to then put it into the game and avoid the backlash that Odyssey had, because it didn't really seem like there was much this time, but it's still a thing. The fact that they would put them in the game after launch is essentially to avoid people like us, like gameranx, talking smack on those microtransactions in a review or first impressions video. Activision has done this in the past with a certain Crash Bandicoot game. To kind of get around the criticisms in the review, they would then update it post-launch a little while later to then add those microtransactions and get that extra cash, and that's a bummer. Fortunately, on this case, according to a lot of the player base, the progression in Valhalla doesn't feel as bottlenecked, and some people think that the boost just is really not necessary anyway. This isn't the worst offense, but considering it did make a big splash and cause a bit more of an issue and debate with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we figured we'd mention it here. Now, next over at number 9, let's talk about Marvel's Avengers game. Now, we will say that the main campaign, the story campaign, was fairly good and kind of enjoyable, which kind of makes us think that this game was supposed to be a single-player game that then ended up being turned into a Destiny-like games as a service thing for more profit or whatever. And it's a shame, too, because like that loot and that grind, unlike some games as a service, it's just not fun here anyway. Fortunately, microtransactions don't influence the progression. They're all cosmetic only here, but there's a lot of them and they're quite expensive. So a legendary skin will cost you around 1,500 points, but the worst offenders are the emotes that cost 1,000 points or $10 for an emote. That's crazy. I know multiplayer games like to charge higher prices for stuff. Fortnite skins can kind of come at a premium, but still, this is kind of whack. Especially because we want to point out that people really didn't appreciate like the numerous exclusive skins for brands that didn't even have anything to do with the Avengers or gaming. Like you could get like a Virgin Media or a Verizon skin for your favorite heroes. That stuff, can we just not do that anymore, please? When they put Spider-Man in the game, I really don't want to see him like wearing a Home Depot t-shirt, or instead of his classic blue and red, it's like red and yellow McDonald's colors. Ugh. Anyway, moving on over to number 8, let's talk FIFA 21 and all of that. FIFA Ultimate Team is EA's ultimate moneymaker with the team packs and all that stuff. This not only includes FIFA 21, but 19, 20, all the FIFAs have this stuff. Just last year, FIFA 20 generated almost $1 billion in microtransactions. That's a 27% increase over the previous year, and that shit was already insane. And that it accounted for almost like 30% of all of EA's revenue. FIFA is a beast and a massive moneymaker, and it totally explains why EA is willing to go to court in Europe to fight against these things, because it's like their main bread and butter. Honestly, with what EA has done with microtransactions in games has moved mountains, and we've seen all kinds of things. We've seen the Belgium case, we've seen a lawsuit in France, we've seen the UK making arguments, and with FIFA 21 and Ultimate Team and all that, it just kept going, and we want to point it out. A lot of people are hooked on that stuff, and they will throw extra money at the game. We're not going to tell you how to spend your money if that's ultimately how you have fun, fine, but for a lot of players, we don't want to see this stuff. Now, next over at number 7, let's talk about Genshin Impact's gacha system. First of all, Genshin Impact is a free-to-play game. It is actually pretty awesome. It surprisingly, it kind of flew under our radar. We haven't talked about it enough. But again, it is a free-to-play game, so you kind of know what you're getting into. It's really impressive. It feels almost more like a console game, but then once you start diving into the systems and stuff, it feels kind of blatantly like a mobile game. There are a lot of currencies with confusing names, gacha mechanics like loot boxes, and other randomized prices with very low rates to get something good. You almost kind of need a guide to kind of just figure everything out and really know what's what's going on. It's like made to be intentionally confusing, almost like they want to trick you into feeling like you really need to spend some money. Genshin Impact is still positively received by a lot of people because it's not the biggest problem, especially in the beginning of the game. You really aren't going to feel the need for any of these microtransactions, but the game has become a bit notorious for, like, as time passes and you progress more and more, you can feel the pressure for better characters and stuff like that. So again, it's a free-to-play, technically mobile game. You kind of knew what you were getting yourself into, but there is still a special game in there, but still, it's got some stuff we didn't like. Next, over at number 6, we have a situation very similar to the whole FIFA Ultimate Team thing. It's NBA 2K 2021. We want to point out some specific issues with the PC version. At launch, this version seemingly got the most hate for a variety of different issues and some availability issues and just the actual content itself and whether or not it was really even the next gen version. It was a lot, it was a mess, but generally, overall, the NBA 2K games for the past few years have been perceived as just having way too many microtransactions, some stuff that at least could be perceived by some players as pay to win. And generally, it's already an expensive game. It's a full price $60 game. 2K wants to push $70 for this game next gen. And to have all that monetization stuff and to continue to have that is pretty offensive, for lack of a better word. And yet they've been coming out year after year with similar stuff. Maybe because a lot of the audience for this type of game is so mainstream that they don't really care about that stuff or pay attention or go online and complain about it. But hey, it's just a shame to us for even like to talk about this stuff, because there was a time not too long ago, but basketball games are pretty kick-ass. They don't need all this extra BS around it. Next, at number 5, let's talk Destiny 2 and the Eververse store in 2022. It's important to note that some people here at gameranx are diehard Destiny fans, so emotions are kind of all over the place, but so Destiny's storefront, the Eververse, is something that players haven't been too happy with for a bit now. The Eververse was always kind of weird, as in really any digital store that sells microtransactions. For a while, it was something that could kind of go ignored, but now it's kind of hard to ignore because it sells a lot of stuff, and a lot of that stuff, frankly, is really cool. You can find a ton of stuff in there. Gun ornaments, ghost shells, armor, sparrow ships, it all costs real money. Some of that stuff, though, you can get with in-game currency called Bright Dust, of course, but some stuff, like the new weapon ornaments, you can only get with silver, the paid currency. Every week there's a part of the store that changes with stuff you can get with Bright Dust, but the cooler stuff always is going to cost real money. And that cool stuff is usually way cooler than the stuff you can earn in game, which is a problem. Each season there's a new set of Eververse armor, and 9 out of 10 times it's way cooler than the Battle Pass armor and the new season armor. This is unfortunate, and it's just something a lot of games do now, locking the coolest shit behind a paywall. And with Destiny finally adding transmog, it makes this an even bigger problem, because now Eververse isn't sold as armor with stats, but as ornaments that you can slap on any piece of armor. Yes, we know that Bungie self-publishes now, and they could technically probably use the extra money since they're not backed by a major corporation, and we're all for throwing developers a couple bucks here and there, but like, we think that the game itself should offer a good amount of cool cosmetics fairly, not just the Eververse store. Now over at number 4, changing gears for a second, literally, this one isn't technically necessarily video games, but we thought it was kind of funny to mention. Essentially, BMW has went full-on microtransaction mode in a way, and it's almost like they learned from the video game industry. Now I want to point out, Tesla kind of brought this forward to the forefront, where you could buy the autopilot software later on as an upgrade right on your interface, but BMW's newest software interface with its newest cars is designed to be continuously updated substantially to like add drastic big new features to the car. And auto tech people and analysts are predicting that BMW will be planning to charge for access to some of these features. It's worth noting that The Verge points out that BMW used to charge you for access to Apple CarPlay, which is literally just you using your smartphone integration with your car. So, yeah, we just wanted to point it out. It was kind of funny. This stuff is everywhere. It's not just video games. Now down to number 3, this one's kind of tricky. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. There are tons of in-game purchases, but some of them are user-created, some of them are developer-sided, and the game was launched with kind of staggered different versions where you could pay more for a better version of the game that just comes with more stuff, but we will say that the base game does launch with tons of aircraft. Obviously, you can fly around the whole world, But if you want upgraded airports and cooler planes and certain types of things, the game's gonna want you to pay up. Now, this is a game with not really any progression or anything like that. It's truly just simulator, so it's kind of like you buy into what you want, and if you're really hardcore, you buy more. You're not paying to win anything, so to speak. So it's not the most offensive thing, but if you are new to this, you might be kind of blown away when you look about how it works on paper. It's up for debate. Maybe you could be satisfied with the base game. We were, because actually we just want to say that the game itself is really cool. Now down to number 2, let's talk Pokemon Go. It always had microtransactions, but everyone always seemed pretty okay with them. I mean, it's a mobile game and they weren't different from many other mobile games. But once they brought the Mega Evolutions into play, things got a little weird. Mega Evolutions work the same way they do in the mainline games. It overpowers your Pokemon temporarily and they'll eventually then go back to normal. The only thing is that in Go, it costs Mega Energy, which is only obtainable through raids, as well as a one-time quest line. And if you play Pokemon Go, your raid passes aren't free. You get one free raid a day, and then it costs $1 each time. And each Mega Evolution lasts 4 hours. So if you want to consistently mess around with the Mega Evolution Pokemon, you're going to be dropping some money pretty consistently. Now, what sucks most for hardcore Pokemon Go players out there is that there are temporary rewards attached to this. And of course, the most hardcore player is going to want access to those rewards. Now, hopefully Niantic changes this up a little bit and is able to make it a bit more player friendly. I'd say the player base deserves it. The hardcore Pokemon Go people have stuck around for a long time, and frankly, if you ask me, they should get whatever they want and shouldn't be restricted by anything. That one isn't so bad, but number 1, this one's crazy. This is super quick, but it's super ridiculous. If you want to change the color of your hair in Dead or Alive 6, like your fighter, you have to pay real life money. You heard me right. Real life money to do something that every other game has been letting you do for free since character creation and customization was created. Dead or Alive 6 uses a premium ticket system, with each ticket costing $1. Changing the color of your hair costs 1 ticket, meaning it costs $1. Come on, man. If you're bored of your hair and you want to change it, pay up. Yes, it's $1. It's only $1, but still, that could get you a lot of other more valuable things like food. Especially like if you realize a few hours later you still don't like the color and you want to try another one, that's another $1. And this doesn't even unlock the color. Like, you can't switch to that color as many times as you want. It's per use, which is unreal. I can't believe I'm even saying this. If you want to switch back to the default color, it costs 10,000 in-game currency. So if you thought horse armor was absurd back with Elder Scrolls Oblivion, you haven't seen anything yet. It's only getting crazier. But these are some of the big microtransactions from 2020 that bothered people for various reasons. Air them out. 2020's over, so just kind of air out your complaints and grievances in the comments down below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button is the best way you can help us out. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hit that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.